There is a specific quality to the testimony of great performers about other great performers. It is different from critical praise, different from industry acknowledgement, different from the endorsements that circulate in the promotional machinery of the music business. When a person who has spent their life inside music at the highest level describes another person who has done the same thing, the description carries a weight that no external observer can replicate. Aretha Franklin did not speak carelessly about other singers. She was known across the decades of her career for a quality of precision in what she said about music and about the people who made it, a precision that came from the depth of her own investment in what she did. When she said something, she had chosen to say it. In the mid-1960s, Aretha Franklin was in the process of becoming what the world would eventually name the Queen of Soul. She had been recording since her teens, had built a reputation in gospel and rhythm and blues that was already substantial, and was moving toward the specific creative period that would define her legacy for most listeners. She was a performer of extraordinary gifts who was also still in the process of understanding the full shape of what those gifts could produce. Etta James was already on the other side of that process. By the mid-1960s, Etta had been performing for more than a decade, had been recording for Chess Records, had been touring the circuit that produced the specific knowledge that only came from years of standing in front of rooms and learning from each one what the next one would need. Among the people whose opinions about music mattered most to the music, she was understood with a precision that public fame rarely produced. On a night in the mid-1960s, Aretha Franklin was in the audience for one of Etta James's performances. She was not there as a formal observer. She was there the way people are there when they find themselves in the audience of something not specifically arranged for their attendance. She sat in the house. The performance began. The comparison between Aretha Franklin and Etta James was one that the music press had been making for years by the mid-1960s. Comparing their voices, their records, their chart positions, their approaches to the material they sang. The comparison was not unfair. Both were doing something remarkable. But the comparison was insufficient, not because it was wrong, but because it was external. It described both careers from the outside, in terms that the outside could access, and did not reach what the inside understood. Aretha Franklin had been in the audience. She had been inside the room. She had heard it from the position that no critic or journalist could occupy, the position of someone who understood from her own body and her own years at microphones what the production of what she was hearing required. She did not repeat the description in formal interviews, not because she had changed her assessment. Her assessment was not the kind of thing that changed, because it was not based on opinion but on direct observation. She did not repeat it because the context's formal interviews required a different kind of language, and the description she had given was too precise, too interior, too much the product of one serious musician describing what another serious musician had done. What did survive was the fact of the description and the account of people who had heard it. That Aretha Franklin, who said precise things and did not waste words, had said something about Etta James's live performance that had not been said by anyone else in the same terms. Not a comparison, not a ranking, an account of a specific quality she had observed from a seat in the house on a specific night, offered in a conversation not designed to become a record of what she thought. It became one anyway. What Aretha Franklin experienced in that audience is not fully available from any account. What is available is what she said afterward, what she said in the specific context of a conversation that was not a formal interview, not a prepared statement. A conversation in which she was describing what she had heard, and in which the description was offered without the awareness that it would be preserved. She did not describe the voice in general terms. Anyone who had heard Etta James knew the voice was extraordinary. A description of the voice in general terms would have added nothing. What she described was what the voice did in a live room to people who were inside it. The specific effect, not the technical cause, not the emotional result, but the specific middle term between them. The thing that happened in the air between the stage and the audience that produced the result. This was the thing that was difficult to describe, and the thing that Aretha Franklin, who knew what she was looking for when she heard it, had found words for. The words she found were not common words for this purpose. They were not the words that critics used, or the music press used, or that performers commonly used when they spoke about each other's work in the formal contexts that required diplomatic language. They were the words of a person describing something they had observed with the specific clarity of someone looking for it from the inside of the same knowledge it required to produce. What made the description remarkable was not its length. It was short, a few sentences, offered in the course of a longer conversation, not given the gravity of a formal statement. What made it remarkable was its accuracy. The specific thing Aretha Franklin said about what Etta James did in a live room was the most accurate description of that quality that existed in any preserved account. Not because it was comprehensive or technical, because it was true in the specific way that descriptions are true when produced by someone with the equipment to see clearly. Aretha Franklin knew what the real thing was. She had been doing it herself for years, and she recognized it from a seat in the house on a night in the mid-1960s in the voice and the presence of Etta James working a room the way only Etta James could work it. The description she gave was not published. It did not need to be. It was given to the people who were present, who understood what they were hearing, and who carried it in the same way that true things are carried, without the need to formalize them, because they had already been received. This is what the music press missed in all the years of comparing Aretha Franklin and Etta James side by side. The comparison was about their records, their chart performance, their commercial trajectories. It was not about what Aretha heard from a seat in the house on a night in the mid-1960s, what she heard and then put into precise, quiet, unpublished words in a conversation that was not designed to last. What she said was that the room had something the records were an approximation of, that the room was the real thing, and that the real thing, in Etta James's case, was more than she had expected, even knowing what she knew, even bringing all of what she knew to the experience of sitting in the audience. That was the testimony of Aretha Franklin about Etta James. Precise, interior, given once, not repeated in the format that would have made it famous. But the people who heard it carried it. And the people who were in the room that night, who did not know that Aretha Franklin was among them, who simply experienced what the room experienced when Etta James was performing at full strength, those people carried it too, in the way that the real thing is always carried, without needing to name it, because it had already been received.